It's not always about performing on the investment is important. Like that's what we're paid to do. That's what we're telling them we'll do.
Yes.
That's what they're trusting to do. So that's a given, right? But if you can go above and beyond and just make that person feel loved, make them feel connected, make them feel like they matter, right? The whole reason people have flocked to alternative investments, Julie, is we're tired of feeling like numbers.
Welcome to the Conscious Investor. Let's get started. Conscious Investor, welcome back. Guess what? I have a repeat guest. You know that if this is a repeat guest, that this is like somebody that I very much value, and I know that you find valuable as well. And so before I introduce our like fantastic repeat guest, I want to go back and just say thank you so much. You guys are just like wowing me with the ratings and the reviews. You're hearing me, and I really appreciate it because our purpose, right? And you're part of this. We want to help other people. Now, I help you because I create the podcast and all of that. And then you get to grow from it, and you get to continue that flow by leaving an honest rating and review. That means other people are going to see it because whatever algorithms, I don't even know how it works, but I just know that you can make a difference and you're doing it. And I appreciate it. All right. Let's dive in because Chad and I can talk, and it's a great conversation that we're going to have. I already know it because they always are. Chad, welcome back. Welcome back to the Conscious Investor.
Thank you, Julie. It's been so long, but I feel like it was just yesterday when I saw you on one of my shows, so it's fun. We're always jumping back and forth on each other's shows, and I love it. We can just talk all day about this stuff and about the good we're doing in the world. So thank you. Blessed to be here.
And that's one of the reasons why it's just so much fun is like, we both live in our zone of genius. We do what we love. And a huge, like the anchor of that is it's all about you people. It's all about you, Conscious Investor. It's all like, oh my gosh. And so what are you guys up to just on the, you invest passively, you're on the active side. We both have this heart to serve people in powerful ways. So just kind of give us an idea of what you guys are doing that is moving that needle, moving the dial. I don't know if my analogy is correct right now. So that, things are going well for people.
Yeah, absolutely. On the business front, it's been quite an interesting time, as I'm sure many of you are feeling out there. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of like, hey, what's going on in the news? What is this inflation thing? What are these interest rates going all over the place? So, hopefully you're not watching too much news. And just if I can give one piece of encouragement, everyone, we're in a winter. What always follows winter? All right. It's rhetorical, but it's spring, right? And so, spring is coming. We're in winter right now. It'll be okay. In the last couple of months, we have continued acquiring projects. Unfortunately, we've had to renegotiate some of those. We don't like to make a habit out of doing that once we're under contract on something, but in our investors' best interest and in our best interest, things changed under our feet. We did have to do some renegotiating. Deals are taking longer to do right now just because, there's less deals moving. Everyone is paying more attention to every little detail. So they just take longer. But we were fortunate to acquire about $80 million in property last year with our investors across 4 assets. Great workforce housing and up, lower end A-class builds potential. And, those were in some great markets. So we had some good partnerships that happened. As of right now, we're really turning our attention in the spirit of flight to quality, right? We're pretty much only looking at things that are just completed, and not quite leased up. So, but there's a lot of developers who are needing to move projects quickly and kind of get their money, either get out of their loan that's costing them a fortune now, or get their money out for another project. So we're seeing some opportunities on the ability to buy some really good, high quality, brand new product at pretty decent basis, like if you can talk about mitigating risk, I mean, come on, it's new, so focusing on that. And then, I'm also excited to report that, at Quattro Capital, we're not just doing real estate. We're also building a company, right? And it's been growing rapidly. So there's been a lot of, working on the business, building better systems, getting ready for the influx of opportunity that is coming this year, and Julie and I were just having a marketing conversation, right? Doing a more intentional job about, not only building new relationships, but really taking care of the ones that we have within our investor base and making sure they feel loved and taken care of and heard and things of that sort, systematically, not just when something happens, right? So,
okay, we're going to pause on that right there. You kind of since we're fellow podcasters, you kind of let your guests talk on, and then you're like, no, we're stopping there. We got to park it. That's an interesting that's an interesting topic when we think about how are we nurturing our current community, right? And I mentioned to you off air, and some of you've been the recipient of this recent email. And if you're not on my newsletter, it's more than a newsletter. It's always mindset and real estate, probably something from my personal life that just kind of reveals all of this, the combination of the two, right? But I actually sent out this newsletter recently. Well, today, the day of recording, that said, we're not taking any more investors. And I got some feedback from that, like, oh, look at you trying to create scarcity effect. Playful feedback from fellow active investors. It's fine. But I wasn't. I was like, wow, actually, that wasn't my intent. My intent was, no, we really need to double down. I feel like you don't ever want to lose connection with the people who are already trusting you. And so with that said, let's talk about passive and nurturing passive investors. I see a lot of people just doing the whole email thing, or sometimes I get these text messages that I know are not from that person personally.
Oh,
and
it drives me nuts, by the way. I get so many of those.
Yeah. Yep, we do. So I'm just wondering, what do you think is the best approach as to that balance between, okay, we nurture and we can't always be one-to-one. We do have to be one-to-many, which means conscious investor. We can't always be directly on the phone with you or direct messaging you constantly. So we have to sometimes send out those mass emails or, messages of some way. So let's talk about best practices.
Well, let's think about how we build relationships, right? I mean, we can start talking marketing jargon and get into tools and systems.
No, we don't want to talk about marketing.
Yeah, blah,
we
blah,
want to talk
blah,
about
right?
nurture.
But yeah, it's all. Think about how we build relationships, right? And how that's evolved over time. So back in the 1800s, if you wanted to build a relationship with someone, you either hopped on your horse and rode to their house, or you wrote them a letter, right? And that letter would get there 4 to 6 weeks later. They could be all excited when they opened it up, and they'd look at it and they'd think about it for a few days and write you back. And so that was the snail mail days, right? Well, what we get to the 21st century, here we are, and this thing called email has arrived. And so we just digitize these letters. Well, now they're there in seconds, and everyone in the world has a marketing email or targeted ads or whatever that comes. And so you're just inundated all the time. So the person of today isn't really building intimate relationships through text anymore. Why? Not because you don't appreciate getting a good, I could send you an email that is one-on-one and you may not read it because you get so many emails, right? Emails are still important. They're good for updates.
Thanks for calling yourself out, by the way.
What's that?
Thanks for calling yourself out the email I sent you earlier.
I did. Julie was getting me. She sent me a wonderful email earlier that to be honest with you, I skimmed and I missed the whole point of the email.
It looked like it was to everybody. I know. I realized the format looks like it was probably one-to-many. So
so that's an example we can use, right? And and how we're trying to do this better. So how do you build an intimate relationship with someone? Well, people really like to see your face, to see eye contact, right? To see you looking at them. And especially if you do in the occasion you're able to do things one-to-one, wow, that person feels special. Think about the difference in getting a mass email and getting a handwritten letter delivered to your door, that someone wrote with their handwriting. It's not a mass email, right? Or even a mass distributed letter. Even the ones where they try to print them with handwriting, you can tell, right? You just know, those bandit signs and wholesalers. But
let's be real. It's because sometimes we have to scratch things out. We make a misstep.
Yeah, exactly. So, going back to it, it's still important to have multiple touch points, but if you can start to sprinkle in there, some one-to-one. So an example of what we're already doing, and then I'll tell you what we can do, what we are going to be doing. We're very prominent, as I know you are, on social media. Well, that if you look at any of our Quattro Capital social medias or the individual partners, there's a lot of pictures. Pictures are good. We have a lot of photo shoots done where you can see us right there looking at you with a message, right? We're starting to do more video with captions. Why? Because most videos are read, on mute or watched on mute in a meeting or something. So you got to have the captions, people watch it. But if you're sitting there talking to someone and they're seeing you move and your mannerisms and all that, these people feel like they already know you. We've had investors come to us and say, wow, we've been watching you for like 6 months. And I feel like I already know Aaron. And yeah, congratulate Chad for me on his kid doing this the other day. It's like, if you put enough out there, be vulnerable, people know you. Well, then it's still one to many, right? But you can see it's still helping to build that relationship. Well, as people come in and become your investor or your client or whatever it is that you do, or if you are an investor, you're going to expect some love out of the team you're with. You don't want that team to always be selling the new person or getting the new person to invest and forgetting about who they have here in their flock, right? Taking care of. So what we're going to be doing a little bit differently going forward is, I'm going to call it one-to-few or one-to-one video, right? So imagine that we send out an update, and I'm going to say one-to-few. So let's say it's investors in a given deal or a certain group of investors, right, that are part of something. One-to-few would be, hey, here is your update. Here's some video with what's going on with the project. And here's a personalized video for you, for this group of me talking and kind of telling you what's going on. So you still feel like we have a little bit of a relationship at least. And then, the one-to-one video is really where the magic happens, right? So imagine that, you have a call with someone to check in, and then, you don't talk to them for 3 months. And then, you hit them with an inbox of, hey, here's a personalized 12 seconds. If you can't find 12 seconds to talk to people, I mean, come on, less than a phone call. You can use certain recording software out there. Vidyard is what we use, and you just hit record. You could tell them a 12-second message or something like that, and then click embed. It's in an email, it's sent. And that person's probably actually going to, you could send it via text message, email, whatever. But if they see a little video with you waving at them and it's something that says like, hey, Chad, or something like that, it's like, oh, wow, they made that for me. It's almost like getting that personalized delivery thing. Then they watch that video. And although you may not have been able to get on a call and actually connect, which is the best thing, right? They got to see you. They got to know that you care, right? And so it's not always about being like performing on the investment is important. Like that's what we're paid to do. That's what we're telling them we'll do. Yes. That's what they're trusting to do. So that's a given, right? But if you can go above and beyond and just make that person feel loved, make them feel connected, make them feel like they matter, right? The whole reason people have flocked to alternative investments, Julie, is we're tired of feeling like numbers, right? I mean, think about your 401k. You get this prospectus. It's like 50 pages long. You have no idea what it says, right? About where your money's going. And I mean, when is the last time anyone checked in on you to see how you were doing, So anyway, I'm get off my soapbox a little bit, but that's kind of what we're thinking about, What about you?
I absolutely love this. And conscious investor, I'm curious what your sentiments are. I mean, you invest passively, you love your job, you want to stay there, but you also want to, be growing your wealth in a really strong way through the real estate and everything, the real estate investing. So I'm just curious, what is it that would be meaningful for you? I'd love to see that. You can leave it in the review section if you want on whatever podcast platform you're on, or you could, like if you're over watching on YouTube, you could drop it in the comments below. In fact, I'd love to see everyone from the podcast head over. If you're on your phone and whatever platform you're on, just go to the YouTube channel. The link is in the show notes, and, just leave your comment. What's your favorite thing? What has made you feel really seen and connected with people that you have invested in? Because that's our goal. Like Quattro and Three Keys, like we're all about how do we support our investors and let them know how much we do truly value them. One thing that we did recently, Chad, is that on our ground up development project, we recently created, it was is actually fairly lengthy. I think it was like 17 minutes long, but we put it up on a YouTube channel, and it's there for our investors. And every one of the GP members, offered input as to, we just took different parts. We went through, kind of did not a super deep dive, but we just wanted to really update on what was taking place. And we added video of some of the construction, like getting everything, ready for breaking ground. And so it's just, it was our way of, how do we bring this to you? You're invested in this, and because it's new development, there aren't immediate returns. So you're kind of in the limbo zone, like, oh, we hope they're doing their job, So it's like, okay, how can we bring this and make this more real and tangible for our investors?
Yeah, that's exactly it. And I think we're just in a world where video is how people communicate. It's you can actually, look at us on Zoom. Like, the funny thing, no one will ever know, because Julie and I have talked so many times, you think we're old friends. We've never met each other in person. We only talked. We have a whole relationship over video, and so that's, but then, you can make things make things feel tangible, even though they might be like, off in a distance in another state where you have no idea what's happening with video,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, conscious investor, you have felt the same thing as you've been on different Zoom meetings, and then you go to events and you meet somebody for the first time in person. And it's just, it does feel like a long time, like, oh, I've known you forever. Like, this is just real. Yes.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it. Okay. All right. I can check the box. Curiosity box has been checked, satisfied, fulfilled. Unless you have anything else that you'd like to add.
I think that really, that probably covers it, and well, I take that back. The best thing from, of anything is in-person relationship building, right? So that this is a little harder and more expensive, and it won't be as prominent as the use of personalized and one-to-few video. But, we are setting up the marketing backend nerdy stuff. We are setting up, the ability to be able to geolocate, and effectively, like, say we're going to be in LA next week, right? We would be able to kind of pull a fence. Say, okay, everyone within 3 hours of this or something like that. Hey, we'll send a video note and be like, hey guys, we're going to be here. Open bar, come see us. We're buying drinks. We'd love to see you, or something like that. But trying to like actually promote, like, just capitalizing on when we do get to travel and making sure like we just touch people who are in those areas and kind of get to harness relationships that way. So, and really develop them there. So that's probably the other thing, is don't overlook the power of personal engagement when possible.
I think it's absolutely, you and I've both, like, we travel to different events very intentionally. It's not haphazard, what events we're going to and why. It's very clear. Here's where we're going. Here's why. So, when we finish recording, we'll have to swap some events that we're going to be at. Maybe we'll find an event that we're going to cross paths at finally after like 3 years.
Yes, exactly. And I feel a little bit, lame. I think everyone in the multifamily industry is heading to NMHC this week, and we have chosen not to do that. Because it's a massive conference and we're just, we have so much good stuff to do. But, we had some other things on the business development side of growth. And like, even when you run a large company, you're still growing, right? There's always a bigger fish you can learn from. So we spent the first couple of weeks of the year doing that to kick off the year. Right. So like, I guess we can't go to the National Multifamily Housing Council that the whole world is going to. So,
I'm not going. I'm one of those people that's not going, but
I think we're the only two, by the way.
So we'll be like the two. So I'll share this. I want it like little segue in conversation. We looked at the calendar, and my husband, Steve, and I, just like, there's a lot of traveling taking place, so it's what does this look like for our family and maintaining quality of life? What does this maintain for the relationships? And, as conscious investors, we're not just in in this to grow our finances and, have piles of wealth built up just to sit on it, go back and listen to the episode where we're talking about, what is a conscious investor. We talk about how money is intended to flow. It's flowing through us. Boomerang effects. You put it out there, it's going to come back to you. It's going to multiply, but don't sit on it. So we also, intentionally care for our health. And part of our health isn't just the shell that we live in while we're here on earth. It's also the relationships that we have. And so you got to look at your travel schedule. I had to do this old lady style. Steve makes fun of me. He's like, you are such an old lady, you and your paper calendars, but it's okay. I'm playing to my strength. And I could see it. And I'm like, wow, that's, you can't go to every conference I can't go to every conference and be present and as a wife, as a mom, right? So how do you balance that out for yourself?
Yeah, that's I got to knock on you a little bit. It's probably your teacher background, right? You're just so good at paper calendars and all that, So
everything in my life is paper.
Yep. How do I balance that? There's a lot of demand on your time, especially when, we get asked to speak a lot, which is humbling and wonderful. And we want to do that as much as we can. There's always 4 events to go to that conflict with each other,
Mm-hmm.
There's a business to run, there's family, there's life to live. And so I think, how do we prioritize that? It's hard to say no, right? And I think that's the thing, is you have to learn to say no. And even if it's a speaking engagement, or if it's a trip with certain people to go do something fun, or if it's a conference here, like sometimes it sounds really awesome to go, but you just like, wow, is that going to generate the value that I need to drive the business or my life or whatever it is I'm looking at to the next level, and there's been times where it's like, wow, yeah, this would be a really good thing to go do, but the timing isn't right. And wow, I was just gone for 2 weeks. Like, what are my kids going to do? They're going to be missing their dad for 3 weeks, so it's like, you have to prioritize what's really important to you in life. And I think having that master vision is important for anybody. Like, what is your life? If you woke up tomorrow and your life is exactly how you want it to be, and it's 10 years from now, what does that look like? And if you actually most people will never do this. And I'm so sorry for those who will never do this.
I am too.
Write your stuff down. Like just do this one simple exercise. It's called a master vision, right? That's what I call it. And imagine you woke up tomorrow morning and you're living your best life and it's 10 years in the future. What does that look like? What does it look like? What does it smell like? Who are you with? And see if the actions you're following today, emulate that. I mean, if the answer is you're at a conference, then great, go to the conference, But if the answer is you're doing this with your kid, or who's now 10 years older, or you've instilled these lessons, or you have this quality of life, it'll help you make the decisions today. Think about what happens when a ship is navigating on course, right? It can be 1 degree off. And if you're 1 degree off when you leave port in New York, you can wind up like in the middle of Africa instead of, somewhere in South Europe, So it's pretty wild. It's pretty wild. And I might've got the geometry a little wrong, but you get my point, is that it diverges over time. That 1 degree gets further and further apart. So, the point I'm making is know where you're going. And that kind of helps you make better decisions today to make sure you're not off course. You're chugging to where you want to be. So for me, that looks like, okay, I really need to travel once a month tops. And that includes fun and business. Right. And so this month was business. I got in trouble for this one because one was business, but then one was my wife and I, Courtney. It was a marriage retreat. So that was, important, but very important. But, February is going to be a personal trip. March is going to be a personal trip. April is going to be a business trip. And so it's like, you just have to kind of be intentional, plan your time out. And it's like, well, here's what I'm going to do. And that will make you prioritize. You won't say yes to everything.
I love it. All of it. I cannot rave enough. I bet you've read this. And Conscious Investor, I think every episode I mention, because everyone needs to read the Motivation Manifesto. Have you read this? Look at all those tabs. Okay. So remember, I run a 5-week book and networking club, and Conscious Investor, if you want to know more, just shoot me an email Just look down in the show notes and you can click on it. But no, so this is a teacher coming out. This is 5 weeks. It's 5 weeks. Every book is just 5 weeks long. And
cool.
I don't know why I didn't do that 3 years ago when I started the book club, tab it out. It makes it super easy. But like when you look at this now, it's interesting that you mentioned that, just about saying your best. Yes is no and no is yes. Like it's just two sides of the exact same coin. And so it's like, which is going to help, navigate you and lead you into the life you're aiming to lead. Steve has pointed out to me, he's like, listen, conferences are super fun and really great, but those are not personal vacations. I'm like, just because you are going and having fun with your friends, it's still business and work. And that's not a personal trip for us. And it's cute because he calls me out on that. And it's a really important thing that I listen to that. And we actually mapped out like, where do we want to travel this year as a family? What do we want to see and do? And it's just absolutely critical. There's something else I was going to add to that, but I'm not going to, apparently. I forgot it.
That's okay. Well, maybe it'll come to you when I ask this question, because what you said right there is genius, right? And that this, a lot of you, conscious investors out there, you probably have this feeling as well, because whatever it is you do, you love what you do and you're investing money in alternative assets to grow it, but you have your genius and you're awesome. To many of you, that doesn't feel like work. It feels like fun, and like to this day, actually on the marriage retreat I just got back from with my wife, which is, by the way, wonderful thing. I'm part of a group called the 1% Club. It's a coaching organization. Tommy Newberry's his name. And they do an annual marriage retreat. And it's always somewhere cool. Like this time it was Montage in Bluffton, South Carolina. So it's a great resort to go with your spouse, no kids. Right? You have to give the kids to the grandparents or something, but 4 days long, and you spend maybe 2 hours a day in the classroom, kind of working on the marriage and like creating a master vision for your marriage. Like just, you really get on the same page. Great time together. But anyway, I digress. So look that up, 1% Club Couples Retreat or Couples Planning Retreat, if you want to check that out. But where was I going with that? The whole point is, on that retreat, my wife and I, over a glass of champagne had some aha moments, and she's like, I don't understand why you want to work so much, and I was like, because like, don't use that word. It is like, it's not work. This is my business. This is my company. I love this. I'm passionate about it. I'm up at 4 a.m. every morning, getting 2 hours of work time in because I want to. I can't get up at 4 a.m. to work out. I'm not motivated for that, but I can get up and work, or work on the business. And so like for a lot of you, and I think maybe Julie included, the work is fun, and we don't call it work. We call it business. We call it growth. We call it whatever the word is, and the work has just gotten this negative connotation of, oh, I have to do this. Like, no, I get to do this, And so it's sometimes it's hard for spouses to understand that, but I don't know. It sounds like y'all maybe have that same dynamic a little bit.
I'm going to have to like pull it up because conscious investor, you've been listening. You're a longtime listener. You already know. Episode 348. It's titled "Why I Don't Work and You Shouldn't Either." Literally. So see, when you are in your zone of genius, it isn't work, and like everything that's just like echo. This is why you can. Oh, let's see. Apparently, it's going to play on my Bluetooth speaker over here. Conscious investor, you can see why Chad is another conscious investor, why he's a repeat guest, because like, just keep preaching it. I know what I was going to say.
You got it back.
I got it back. So we're going to just grab it for a second. As we were talking about goal setting, two things. One, at Conscious Investor, you listened to the episode before this with Chris Price, and some of the same concepts were coming up. He was speaking about, planning with his wife. And, sometimes when you're new at it, it's a little messy, and it can feel, there can be some defenses up and things like that. So anyhow, that was fun. So if you haven't listened to that episode, go back and listen to it, because it will really support you if this is something that you're resonating with specifically. And then I was going to say on our goals, I have our kids' ages written down. And then I just have some like 3-year, 5-year, 10-year with their ages. And when you start to see the reality of like, holy cow, like he's going to be, 24. A decade from now,
Yeah.
I'm going to be a mom to a 24-year-old man. Right. And that just changes, like starts shifting those dynamics when we start thinking about our life vision. I look at my son, I'm like, wow, yeah, he's going to be a man. Like we all know this, but do we actually visualize it and actually take time to internalize that? And then take action that helps support, like, let me nurture this very unique time that we have together in a different way.
You're so right. And so one of the things that we did at this planning retreat, it was called an etch memory thing. So etch memories, things that are etched in your mind, right? And so the idea was you lay out, everyone in your family, and then like there's like the next 10 years, right? And actually, I think it was 20 years. It was actually kind of absurd how far out he was making us do this, but it was 20 years out. And it was like, as you write every child's name on the bottom and their age in those different year groups, right? Because it was like, there'd be 3 years here, 3 years here, 3 years here, going across in columns. Sorry for those who are listening and didn't see my hands, but, envision writing your kids' names and the age they will be, over the next 20 years. And you start to realize, wow, like this is going to happen. That's not that far away when you really think about it. The days go quick, but the days go slow, but the years go fast is kind of what I always say. It's easy because you're watching them grow day by day. You don't notice the monumental changes that's happening in their lives. And so just, going back to planning that stuff out, it's a really cool exercise just to be like, let's think about what are the lessons I want them to learn? What are the etch memories we want to make between now and then, and just having that kind of plan. You may not hit them all. You probably won't. In fact, you'll probably change it next year, but at least you have a beacon that you're sailing towards, There I go with my water again. You hear that? A beacon I'm sailing towards.
You're so obsessed with water. But, that's interesting because even as we were looking at and mapping out our year, it was, where do we want to go and propose dates? Like they're on the calendar, they're blocked off.
Yeah.
Like anything could not anything could happen. I mean, we're kind of married to those dates and making those happen because it's when it works. But like getting up to Banff is something that's really important to us. It's like 5 hours away. With the shutdown, we were just brokenhearted because we didn't get to go. So, just like realizing, where do we want to take the kids? What do we want to explore? What do we want to see? Those experiences. I highly recommend doing this. This conscious investor, this is something that is planning at this level is like, we tried to do this last year. So this is like, we're still new at being this level of intentionality directed towards our family and the experiences that we have. But as you start living into your vision, like you get to decide your life. The choice is yours. And so you are like the captain. We'll go to water, we'll go to boats. Like you are the captain of the ship. So like, make sure that you have your navigation set correctly. And I want to take this just kind of full circle here and say, let's go back to investing then, right? So then we have we have those teams that we're connected with that communicate in ways that make us feel, connected and attached and like we trust them. And we have our life vision and we have these relationships that are anchored down. And now we're placing these investments. What does life look like now? How has investing, like as you invest passively also, like how has all of this shifted your life? I mean, you came from engineering. You big, I wanted jokingly because we're friends. I'm like, you're such a nerd, but I'm more nerdy because I'm paper and I have tabs in my book. So
yeah, no, I'm an engineering nerd, and you're you're a teacher with her paper and her.
Yeah,
I love it. You're such the stereotype, but I am too. It's okay. I own it.
I do too.
But yeah, it's I got into this. Because I love making old things new, right? I love rebuilding things and restoring them to their former glory. And that's how I started rehabbing things and eventually did it at scale with apartment buildings, right? But the side magic is, wow, that creates a lot of, recurring revenue, whether it be rent or sale proceeds or, I'm always doing something, right? And so what's beautiful about it is on the active side of, 10x my earning potential, because I'm able to go generate money from nothing by the fruits of the efforts of my company, right? And I do that on behalf of investors, which are also, they're taking their money and generating fruits off of their money, right? And so it's a wonderful marriage of how we all do good while doing well together. But, having the ability to, I've designed this life intentionally, right? I'm in the office right now, but I have a MacBook that is plugged into some screens with this microphone, and I have an iPhone right here, right? And with that, I take that with me anywhere I want to go, and I can do anything from anywhere in the world. So the freedom that's given me, what are the 5 freedoms in life? First, you get financial freedom, where you're no longer trading time for money, right? Necessarily, but maybe you're still doing whatever you love that pays you, but you also have residual income, residual proceeds. All of a sudden, your finances aren't dependent on one thing. You start to step back a little bit, like, okay, I'm doing this because I want to do this, not because I have to put food on the table. Well, that leads to the second freedom, which is geographical freedom. If you design your life right, my business partner, Mo, is probably the most notorious for this. He's literally just got on a plane back from somewhere in Spain. I don't even know where he is anymore, right? He's always working. He's always supporting the company, but he might be in Spain, Cyprus, China. Like he's works wherever he is. You get from geographical freedom and you start to get into freedom of passion, right? So that you can really have the freedom to do what you want to do, and then freedom of relationship and so on. So it's really a wonderful thing to be able to once you're not dependent on just one income stream, you have multiples and you have a little bit of breathing room. That's how it's impacted life is I will make sure to take several trips a year with my family. And before it was like, oh my God, I'm going to be out of the office. I got to get all prepared and then work for 2 weeks, overtime to catch up. The difference now is I have the choice. I can take my stuff with me and get up in the morning and work before they wake up if I want to, or just, I know I've got a team around me. I've got a team who's protecting my investments. I've got a team who's working in the company. If I'm not there for a couple of days, it'll be okay. So I would say just the 5 freedoms are really the biggest thing that lifestyle by design has built for me,
It's like, again, this is why you're a conscious investor, because chasing after financial freedom is really great and it opens up opportunity, but ultimately it's our personal freedom that is our life. And we can have personal freedom. Financial freedom is one of the tenets under personal freedom, but there are lots of other areas where you can experience personal freedom. And conversely, you could have financial freedom and be a really miserable person. You can be completely bankrupt in your personal life, and you don't want that to happen. You hear me talk about that on a regular basis. Like, we don't want to invest and be so be fear-based investors, basically, where we're just investing because we think we need all this money, or we need to hoard this, or it's filling a different need in our life, and we haven't healed something or discovered part of us. And so we're chasing after or this financial, component, and neglecting everything else that is actually called life. So, having that balance is really critical.
And by the way, if anyone is auditing me, yes, I didn't list all 5. I'm sorry. What is time freedom leads to financial freedom, leads to geographical freedom, leads to freedom of passion, leads to freedom of relationship, right? So those 5 things, for those who are auditing me, engineer, I got passionate and, kind of messed up, but, wow. And now I've forgotten where I was going to go with that entirely. So
we were talking about money, and you kind of had some light bulb moments.
Yes. The light bulb moment that just went off was, it's never about the money, you conscious investors. It's about what you can do with that money, what that money can do for you. It's about the experiences that it can provide. It's about the freedom it can provide. It's about the good you can do with it, right, for others. So it's, if you're in it just to hoard money, I challenge you to relook at your mindset, because money doesn't give you anything. It just helps you do things,
Boom. Mic drop right there. Chad, it's been fantastic. I'm grateful to have you back on the show. I was grateful to be on your show recently. You should check out that, Conscious Investor. Go and listen to that episode. Different conversation, but a great conversation. So what are the best ways for, conscious investors to connect up with you?
Yeah, the best way, if you just want to write this down in the show notes, chadsutton.info. is a great way. That'll take you to my link page, which has all the stuff. You can find the podcast where Julie has been a featured guest on there. You can find other podcasts we've been on. You can find our website at thequattroway.com under that as well. And, if you want to just follow, see what we're doing in the philanthropy side of things, see what our investments look like, it's all there. So chadsutton.info. Perfect.
And remember, it's okay to pod stock. So we talked about that a few episodes ago. If there is, someone that you want to get to know, there's no better way to get to know someone than go and just Google their name and put podcast beside it and just see and like all the podcasts they've been on, listen to them or watch the YouTube video, whatever your flavor is. And, you can get to know, and you can also see how people have evolved. I've said that about myself. I'm like, wow, if you went back to the first episode on this or first episodes that I was on with other, podcasters, there's definitely an evolution. And you want to look for that when you're pod stalking. You don't want to, they sound exactly the same. Oh, they haven't changed. Oh, they're still telling the same stories this year that they were telling 3 years ago. Like, that's an indication that they may not be a conscious investor, because conscious investors are always transforming and always growing into the next part of their journey. So I want to encourage you, give yourself permission to pod stock. It's a lot of fun. I've done it, and it's a good thing. The only time it's a good thing to be a stalker.
I love that. That's a reciprocal mic drop moment right there. Pod stalking. That's a Julie Holly term right there.
It is very good. Conscious and Chad, before I sign off for the Conscious Investor, thanks again for joining us on the podcast.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you, Julie.
And Conscious Investor, you are fantastic. Remember, don't find yourself relationally bankrupt, but financially solvent and, living the high life. Like, you want both, the best of both worlds, and you can have the best of both worlds. So make sure down in the show notes, go and schedule a time to talk with me. If you're feeling like, hey, I need some performance coaching. Hey, let's schedule a call and let's have a free coaching session. If you're like, I need to learn about this whole financial investment strategy, then schedule a time and let's have that conversation. And pretty much everybody will attest. You hop on the call and it sounds just like this normal conversation. Okay. So I want to encourage you to make sure that you reach out and that you take those steps. Until next time, live big, love bigger, and do great things. Are you enjoying this episode? Do the world a favor and help trip the algorithm by leaving a review so that this content reaches many others.